Here are the books I read in March. I've been sharing more of what I've been reading lately, and I've really enjoyed the conversations around it, but my website just shows the books that I'm reading or that I've finished reading. So I wanted to share a little bit more about how I felt about the books that I read and some of the ones that I would recommend. But I read 8 books this month. The first was Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. And I enjoyed it. It was probably like a 3-star read for me. It came highly recommended from a local librarian who said it was one of the best books she'd read all year. I've struggled with Andy Weir for a while now. It took me 2 tries to read The Martian because I just really don't vibe with his writing style. Which is not to say I don't enjoy the books. I thought it was a good book. It was an enjoyable book. It made me smile. But it was not sort of top of the list. I have also read 2 of the books in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, which I have really been enjoying. I've read 5 Dungeon Crawler Carl books in about a month. I'm reading the 6th one right now. I've really enjoyed them. They're really light reads, sort of popcorn reads, but they're really fun and I just can't put them down. I also read Picks and Shovels, which is the 3rd Martin Hench book by Cory Doctorow. I read the first 2 books on my Kindle, and then this one I listened to as an audiobook when I was on my way to South by Southwest. It's narrated by Will Wheaton, who does a really good job with it, and I think it was my favorite out of the 3, although it's a close tie with the first one maybe. I also read The Spellshop in like a day, mostly sitting at the airport waiting for my flight back. I got delayed, and so I had nothing to do but read at the gate. That was a really fun book. It's really sweet. It's a great springtime read. I knew I was going to be coming home and starting my seeds for my garden, and it really got me in the mood for that. So I really loved it. Someone told me the author, Sarah Beth Durst, is also coming out with a book later this year called The Enchanted Greenhouse, which is sort of in the same vibe. So I'm definitely going to pick that up when it comes out. On the totally other end of the light reading spectrum from Dungeon Crawler Carl and The Spellshop, I also read Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment, which I really enjoyed. I read this as an ebook, and I kind of wish that I had a physical version because it probably would have been easier to keep up with the names. A lot of the names are very similar, or there are multiple versions, like nicknames of the same name. And that was a little challenging for me as someone who's really bad with names just in general. But it was a really enjoyable read. I would highly recommend it if you're looking to read any of the classics. It was really thought-provoking. I also listened to another audiobook this month, which was The Color of Magic by Terry Pratchett. I think it's the first book in the Discworld series. I've actually read 5 other books in that series, all in the Watch arc. It's one of those series where people don't necessarily read it all in order. There are different arcs that you can sort of jump into and out of. I wanted another audiobook. My library didn't have the next book in the Watch series, and so I just picked this one up to listen to. I really enjoyed the book. I did not love the narrator so much. I just didn't do it for me. I'm really picky about audiobook narrators, and this one just sort of didn't vibe for me. But the story was really good. I love Terry Pratchett. His worlds are so magical and fun. And then finally, I read The Midnight Library by Matt Haig, which I enjoyed. It was definitely a book that made me feel something, which is why I gave it a solid 3 stars, I would say. After I put it down, I felt very reflective, but I found it to be kind of shallow. It felt pretty predictable, and a lot of the storylines I thought felt kind of contrived. It was a fun concept. It was worth reading, but it was definitely not at the top of the list this month. I also started Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky, but I put it down about 250 pages in. It just wasn't really doing it for me. It's not about the spiders. I don't have any issue with spiders, but it just wasn't really hooking me. I think part of it was just I was not in the right headspace for that kind of a book. I wanted more of a lighter read at that point in the month. Later in the month, I got back into reading multiple books at once, so I could have a heavier book that I was reading alongside something lighter like Dungeon Crawler Carl. And so I think I might try picking this one back up and doing that so that when I want something lighter, I can just choose a different book without feeling like I need to finish the Children of Time first. But I'm not really sure. I'm a big space opera person, and this one just sort of wasn't doing it for me, but I think I do want to give it another chance at some point. So if I had to recommend one book out of the 8 that I read this month, I would definitely recommend Crime and Punishment. It's a pretty chewy read, so if you are looking for something lighter, this might not be the choice for you, but I did really enjoy it and would recommend it very highly. Finally, going into April, I'm reading 3 books right now. The first one is East of Eden by John Steinbeck, which is one of the few books that I did get a print copy of. I actually borrowed it from my library and then read like 5 pages, realized it was so good that I wanted a print copy of it of my own that I could like scribble in and markup. And so I purchased my own copy that I would be able to keep. I am about 3/4 of the way through it right now, and I am loving it. I am guessing it's going to be one of my top reads for the year. I'm also reading the audiobook of The Monsters We Defy, which I have been really enjoying. I really struggle with audiobooks because I often just don't enjoy the narrators, but the narrator of this one is really, really fantastic. And then I am finally reading the 6th book in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. I cannot put them down. It's called The Eye of the Bedlam Bride. I am maybe 20% into it so far, and it's fantastic as always. I will definitely do another recap at the end of April and let you know how I feel about all of those books.